What is up, everybody? Bobby here, the Nintendo Guru, joined by my best friend in all the land, Mr. Toby Thornton. We're going to have a little conversation. We're going to talk about a game that is not Nintendo related, but it does have roots within Nintendo, and that's why I feel like I want to talk about it. And it's something that's really, honestly, hasn't been on my radar at all, but I want to talk about it a little bit because there's reasonings behind not being on my radar, but you've played it, and I want to get your impressions on it. So we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'll let you start. I'll give you the floor to kind of discuss the game a little bit.
All right. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Bobby. It's the game we've been waiting for like 15 years now. like since the PS3, right? Mm-hmm. There was a tech demo of Final Fantasy VII. Like, this is how it could look on PS3. It looks fantastic. Everyone was wetting their pants over it, and it looked amazing. Never happened.
Yeah.
And then all these years later, finally, I think it was 2015, they announced a remake after many years of teasing, and it's here now.
Okay.
And a lot of people thought it would never come out, but especially because it's such a big game, and for years they were like, oh, this game's too big to remake, it's going to cost too much money, it's never going to be fit into one disc, and all of this nonsense. And so they decided to break the game up into multiple parts. Yeah. And part one came out this year, and it's good. It's very good.
Before we get into this, I want to explain to you some things I have that are holding me back, and I want you to try to explain to me why they don't matter. The things, because I think that I have a lot of people probably think the same things that I think on this on a little bit of level. Number one is the multiple parts. I have a real problem paying $60 for a part that's not even 20% of the first disc. I really thought originally like they were going to break it into 3 discs. Yeah. Like, and it would be like part 1 would be the first disc and part 2, and that would make sense to me. But I don't understand the reasoning to break it up even to further discs, because now they're even talking even more to kind of make it consistently. So I think twofold, my biggest issue is how long is this game going to take to even get out, like into completion? Like, how long do they continue to stretch parts? Yeah. And then, like, does it ever complete? Meaning, man, if they get to, let's just say that they go, okay, we're going to do this over 10 parts, right? If internally they go, we're going to do this over 10 parts. And then part 4, really, they get caught up, there's a problem, it costs them a lot of money, and the game doesn't do well. Do they stop? And do they, you know what I mean? Like, do we not get a completion of this thing? So that would really bother me, to be like, hey, I'm only not even midway through this thing and they've stopped. And then the other problem is you're charging me full retail for a game that's not even, what is it, 20 hours, I think?
It's a lot longer than that.
Is it? Okay. So they're my concerns.
Yeah.
Does that bother you? What's your thought pattern in all I just said to you?
So originally, I was a bit iffy about it being multi-part as well.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went a little bit media blackout. I didn't watch any trailers or reviews after the initial reveal. And I've not beat it yet. I'm probably about 80% through it.
Okay.
That's my guess anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less than that, but I think the way you got to look at it is a full game. You are getting your money's worth. It's a very long game. I think it's, I am taking my time a little bit. I'm doing side quests. I'm exploring as much as I can. And I'm already nearly 30 hours into it.
Okay.
So I feel like by the time I finished it, it'll probably be about a 40-hour game for me.
Okay.
And then there is replay value there as well.
Why do you say that?
Because once you beat the game, you can go back and pick any chapter of the game to go back to.
Okay.
And you can complete any quests that you missed. You can just explore. I think there's a bit more to do. You can challenge yourself, up the difficulty, like stuff like that.
Okay.
at the same time, I feel like the way that they have split the game up has meant that they have stretched out parts of the story that I feel don't need to be stretched out.
Okay.
There's certain aspects that in the original game they took 10 minutes to tell this one little part, and they've stretched that out into hours and hours of gameplay. And at times, to me, it feels unnecessary and even boring, I would say. I feel like they should have just made it a much tighter experience and not tried so hard, you know. But when you boil the game down to its fundamentals, its combat system, its menus and just the story, the main parts of the story, then it's very good, and it's got a real nice flow to it.
So, so let's just say the first disc, where, without being spoilerish, like whereabouts does this take place?
So I don't know where it finishes, and I've heard that at the end they do something a little bit unexpected. My thoughts, like I'm speculating that it takes you up to when you leave Midgar.
Okay.
I know that it's not beyond that because that would be open world, and they haven't. I know that for a fact that they've not done that yet. So I played through the original up until I leave Midgar, but just before, like the week before the remake came out.
Yeah.
So I was quite familiar again with what happens, and that took me less than 5 hours to leave Midgar in the original, and they've stretched 5 hours of gameplay into 40 hours of gameplay.
Okay, so yeah, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, for me, Square really needs to have an organizational overhaul. They are in a situation where Final Fantasy 15 took 10 years to make. But to be fair, I think they were looking at the same thing with this, and they just looked at it and was like, financially, we can't afford to do this, so we have to break it apart to do this. Okay, so here's the other thing that's got me a little taken aback, and that was when I did see gameplay trailer footage. I think it was, I don't know if it was at E3 or at the Game Awards. I forget which one it was. It might have been E3. And they were talking about, it was E3. They were talking about how it was kind of like an action RPG now, not necessarily the traditional, turn-based RPG. That's what Final Fantasy VII was. That's been changed, right? Is that true?
Yeah, so now it's more akin, I would say, to the Xenoblade combat system in a way. Okay. You've got your party of up to 3 characters at a time. You only control one character at a time, but in battle, you can switch between any character at any point. Okay. So what you do is you run around the environment when you're in a battle, and you've got your gauge at the bottom that fills up. And it's split into 2 parts, this gauge. So you can't actually do anything until it gets to the end of the first part of the bar. Okay. And then at that point, you can press X and it will open up a menu. Actually, roll back. You can do something. You can do a basic attack by pressing square with your sword. Okay. But other than that, you can't use any items or magic or anything like that. So if you want to use an ability or a magic or an item, you have to wait for your bar to fill up. Okay. So you have got stuff to do whilst you're running around and waiting for this bar to fill up. But once it does fill up, you can use a special attack or a summon or, this and that.
So, so you're basically controlling Cloud the whole time. And
you can control Cloud or any other character.
You can transfer who you want.
Yeah. Okay. Only when you're in battle, though. When you're outside of battle,
then you're just Cloud, and they all kind of follow you or whatever. So, man, that's different. That's definitely different. Because when you play Xenoblade, you just control the one character.
Yeah, because in Xenoblade you can give commands to other characters, can't you? Yeah. But in this, like, if you don't want to directly control the other characters, they do their own thing whilst you're fighting.
Yeah.
But you can give them a command without directly controlling them.
Yeah.
So I think if you press one of the R buttons, you can, get the menu up and you can switch to a different character and tell them to cast a spell.
Okay.
And then they do that whilst you're still carrying on with Cloud or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a little sense. Okay, so, but can you also play the traditional way as well?
I think you can. I've not experimented with it because I feel like the way I'm playing it is the way the developers intend you to play it. And when you've got the menu up anyway, time is really slowed down anyway. So you've got practically all the time in the world to think about what you want to do whilst you've got your menu up. So yeah, like there is a lot of strategy to it as well because the enemies you're fighting, physical attacks don't always work. A lot of the time you have to have magic or special types of attacks.
Yeah. And
there's like a stagger thing where the more you attack them, they've got this little gauge that fills up and they can become staggered, just like in Xenoblade.
Okay.
And then at that point, they become weak to other attacks.
Okay. So it sounds, combat-wise, it sounds like something that I would be okay with and I'd be good with. Because I just felt like originally it was kind of like they wanted to make it an action game, but it sounds like it's still action RPG and it's still heavily RPG based. They just
it really is a mix of both. It really is because the materia system is all there. It's all intact. You pick up your materia and you attach it to your weapons and your accessories.
Yeah.
You can't change that out mid battle, which turns out to be a little bit of an annoyance for me.
Yeah.
There are some points in the game, more so with side quests than the main plot, but sometimes you come across a certain enemy type that is only vulnerable to a specific thing, or they've got an attack that will put your characters to sleep, and if you've got no way to combat that, then you get in situations like there's these scorpion enemies that will paralyze you or put you to sleep, and at that point you can't do anything. Your controller just slumps and you can't move them, you can't do anything. You have to switch to a different character.
Okay.
However, if you've got nothing to protect yourself from that, and the enemies use this attack so often that you can end up in situations where all of your characters are inactive, you can't do anything, and you're at that point you're just watching. And it becomes extremely, extremely infuriating because you feel it's unfair because you didn't have prior knowledge about this before going in.
Yeah.
And there's a few times that I've come across that in the game so far where I'm like, at least in some games, like The Witcher 3, for instance, you can read up on a monster as part of a side quest, and then you can prepare for battle by enhancing your sword or having some sort of tincture that protects you against a certain attack that they're going to use on you. So you've got some sort of foreshadowing of what's going to happen. But in this, there's nothing like that. You just go into this battle and you're locked in there, and if you ain't got the right stuff, you're screwed. Okay,
so let's talk story-wise. How's the voice acting? How's all that stuff for you?
So the two favourite things for this game for me are the combat system and the characters, because the characters have been really, really fleshed out from the original. A lot of characters that hardly had any lines originally have got lots and lots to say now, and they've got personalities. They're all really well voice acted. It's some of the best voice acting in games I've seen.
Nice.
Graphically it's amazing. Not every part of the game is, but the main characters look amazing, they sound amazing, and they're just so fun to interact with.
You're kind of moving me. You're moving the radar a little bit. I just got to get my head wrapped around the fact of part of me is just wait till all of them are done and then buy the complete set and just play it through.
Yeah, but then, at that point, that's going to be like a 200-hour investment.
Well, it's fine.
You might as well play it as
maybe and that might be the way to do it, because now I'm thinking about it, right, dude? that's the hardest thing is to jump into a game like Xenoblade. I'm looking at it, I'm like, do I have time? I have to carve out time. But if I go, hey, I got time, I got a weekend, I could play, I got 2 weekends I could play and beat this game and then put it aside. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe I'm being stupid about it and just should jump on it. So
have fun with it, Bobby. Like, I feel like, one of the main reasons I feel like they've split it up as they have is that I feel like Square Enix terrified of the open world aspect of this game.
Yeah.
I feel like they don't know how they're going to handle that because the game itself is so linear that I feel like they've optimized it for PS4 to be this linear experience. There's, some areas are more open than others, but a lot of the game itself is you go from A to B, and it is graphically it's amazing.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of those, so many of those hidden loading where you're squeezing through a tight space. The game is full of that. Sometimes when you have a cutscene, you start a new chapter, you do you have 5 seconds and then you crawling through this tight space and then it's loading the next area. It is that bad sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's another annoyance to this game. I'm like, if you have to do that so often, then clearly the PS4 is not capable of loading it like you want to load it.
And maybe the Pro is the answer. The Pro or whatever, the PS5.
I think the PS5. I feel like, the next part on PS5 is going to get rid... I'm hoping it's going to get rid of those narrow spaces.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to do more with an open world environment.
Yeah. I have to check it out. I'm debating... Honestly, I've been debating picking up a Pro... or holding out for 5, but nothing other than Last of Us 2. There's nothing that really makes me want to buy a 5. So I'm kind of on the fence there. We'll see what happens. But Toby, thank you. This was a fun conversation. This was good. Yeah. I'm glad that we had it. It kind of.
I hope I wasn't too negative on the.
Well,
I do sound like I've got these.
Yeah, you were very British. You were very British on this. So like, hey, I love this. This sucks. This sucks.
The thing
this
is,
sucks.
Bobby, right? You know that I don't beat AAA games very often.
Yes.
I fall off all the time. I've got all the intentions in the world of beating AAA games, and I get right near the end or whatever, and I'll just stop.
Yeah.
But I'm pushing through this one, and I feel like there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I'll talk to you in 6 months when you still haven't beaten it.
Yeah.
So that is all. Thank you guys for checking out this little episode that Toby and I threw together where we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake. You can follow me, Instagram, Twitter, at Nintendo Gurus. You can follow Toby over on Twitter, at Toby's_talk. That is all.
Toby's_take. Get it right, Bobby.
Whatever. Who cares? Toby's_take. Sorry, man. Sorry. That is all. Peace out, Preston.
See you later.